Suspended in space and hanging from Yggdrasil's bow, Odin slept and dreamt of what was to be, but the All-Father was no longer lord of his own dreams. The Norns, 3 in 1, had spun their weave of fate and caught the sleeper within its tangled mesh. Not wanting to follow his brother's fate into the final battle for power, Loki, the smiling god of mischief and tricks, faked his own death and managed to let his own thread slip from the grasp of Verdandi, the Norn of the present. Realizing too late that she had been fooled, she cursed and tried to put it back, but the moment was gone. The weave tangled, and a knot was formed that could not be cut without great cost and loss. What was left for the weavers but to add more yarn and hope for the best? Thus it was written in the weave that Loki did not perish in Ragnarok. Instead, he faked his own death, and from the story's end, escaped. Every end has a new beginning, and from the ashes of that final war, Loki watched as a sky of orange mist arose above the frozen battlefield. The pale ghost of a sun lingered in the shadows, casting light on the corpses of fire and ice. Here, the demons of Muspelheim had been forced to retreat as the frost giant's strength grew with the fading of the sun. "I will make you pay for this treachery, Loki!" Ash shouted, her voice filled with defiance. Small flames flickered around her mouth as she spoke, and plumes of water vapor engulfed her. She wasn't ready to retreat yet. "Marshal," Loki said, not looking up to meet her eyes. Fear was not a feeling he enjoyed, and Ash offered nothing but an endless supply. He needed some reassuring distance. Thankfully, he had placed a doorway nearby for just such an occasion. As the ground shook again from a distant explosion, he seized the moment and started running. "Tell your master that Midgard was never his to take and never will be," Loki shouted in defiance, trying to keep the fear from his voice. Still running, he closed his eyes and listened for the flapping of wings. When he opened them again, Munin swept down in front of him, leading the way to the secret passage that led down from the mountaintop and into the valley. The ravens, Munin and Hugin, had started to follow him even before the battle began, and now he truly was their master. The roar of a great fire caught by the wind reached Loki's ears, and with a suppressed cry, he managed to dodge a burning arrow that flew past his head. In the corner of his eye, he saw the arrow arcing through the air like a sparrowhawk before it found its target again. Realizing he might not make it, Loki was gripped by panic and threw himself into the crevice between two snow-covered rocks where the passageway lay. The arrow missed him again as it flew over his head and hit the largest of the rocks with a loud thud. Loki continued to tumble down the stairs, taking a considerable amount of snow with him, which dulled the pain somewhat. Repeated loud bangs echoed through the passageway as more flaming arrows slammed into the rocks above, missing their target. The passage ended at the north side of the mountain's base, where the village of Stalon lay by the lake of Malgomaj. Here, Loki had built a castle that he often used as a resort for exotic parties when he visited Midgard. He reached the foot of the castle wall, but instead of continuing on to the main entrance, he climbed down the icy hill to the frozen lake, which was now just a snow-covered plain. In the distance, the war cries of the combatants rose to a final crescendo as the Allied forces made their final push against the last remaining battalion of Cinder. Soon, it would all be over. Peace would last for hundreds of years, and Loki fully intended to survive long enough to enjoy this victory. Determined, Loki ran across the ice until he reached a small, bare island that rose like a black thorn amid the white landscape. At the top of the cliff, an ancient stone archway had been erected from 3 massive stone blocks, 2 on each side and 1 across. Next to the archway stood a middle-aged woman in a gray silk dress, with long, curly black hair that fell down her back. She had her arms crossed in front of her chest, and small silver threads were sewn into the fabric of her dress, catching the weak winter sun and glinting in intricate geometric patterns. Her face was stern, and there was a hint of anger in her eyes, along with a pale green tint. "You're late," Hel said disapprovingly, her voice calm but with an edge. "I thought we agreed to stick to the plan." "Dearest Hela, most magnanimous of you to have endured the wait," Loki replied apologetically, contorting his face into a satisfied smile. "What took you so long?" Hel insisted. Not now, we have to hurry. Ash took the hammer. I managed to close Bifrost, but if we don't close our borders, she won't hesitate to punish us harshly for interfering with her plans. And Midgard? Hel asked. Midgard is in the hands of the frost giants, but come spring, the children of the vines will once again roam the land, Loki replied. Does that make you happy? Hel hesitated for a moment, then said, Yes, thank you. They were created to destroy us, you know, Loki interjected. They were supposed to, but instead we made a change, and now the elder gods will lose, Hel nodded. We think we have made a change, Loki remarked with a smile. Hel did not answer, but touched the runes on the archway, causing them to light up with the same faint green light that shone in her eyes. The space inside the archway turned black as burnt tar. Loki hesitated for a moment, then took 2 long steps and a great leap right into the archway. The world spun as Loki went in sideways, but soon found himself swimming up from the bottom of a lake. When he reached the surface, he gasped for air under a clear, starry sky. The lake lay still and dark around him, but on the northern shore he could see fires burning. Chants, laughter, and shouts of joy could be heard across the lake. Loki began to swim toward the festival. The villagers had tried for years to summon their god for the solstice, and this year he would finally come. As he swam closer, he felt the mysterious magic of their offerings tugging at him, pulling him in their direction. Without the rejuvenation of his body that he had received from Idun's golden apples, he would have to compromise and trade his services for offerings. With enough willing minds to carry his spirit, in time he could plant a new tree of golden apples. Until then, he would have to serve his worshippers and fulfill their wishes. Hel's realm would indeed have to change.